Hey everybody, it's Coach Wright bringing you part two of this week's Monday update. Yesterday we talked about graduation, we talked about masks, and I honestly felt like that would be enough. Wanted to give you some time to digest that. It was a lot of information in a short time, and if I let this drag out, this could be a long message also. So let's just dive right in. A couple of weeks ago, or actually last week, the Department of Education released a document explaining to us what steps we would take in case we had a COVID-19 or positive COVID-19 diagnosis within the walls of our school. And so I want to share that whole plan with you. But before I do, and we'll share that as soon as we get approval, I think it's okay for us to go ahead and share it. But I just want to get a yes. But they did tell us we should start talking about some of the vocabulary, and so I wanted to share that with you. A point of contact, it is simply the district employee who's going to communicate with the Department of Health, the Department of Education. That person also has to be accessible to the community after hours and on weekends. We are working on identifying that person and getting the things set up that we need to for them so that once we announce who that's going to be, they'll be ready to go and start fielding questions. So as soon as we identify that point of contact, we will certainly release that information. So probable close contact is a term that you will hear throughout this school year, and that is individuals that have been identified by our district that have likely been within 6 feet for 15 cumulative minutes. That's key. 15 cumulative minutes or longer within a 24-hour period to a person who's tested positive. Doesn't matter if they're wearing a mask or not. Now, that person is expected to quarantine immediately. And what's going to happen is that you will await confirmation from the state letting you know you are, in fact, a close contact and you continue quarantining. Now, the next term is a close contact. So what's going to be the difference in a close contact and a probable close contact? A close contact is a confirmation from the ADH through contact tracing that you have been within 6 feet for 15 cumulative minutes or longer within a 24-hour person or within a 24-hour period to a person who has tested positive for COVID. Now, here's the deal about cumulative. It could have been 2 minutes on the bus. It could have been 3 minutes at breakfast. It could have been 5 minutes in the class, and it could have been another 5 minutes at recess. We have to be able to identify everybody that's going to be within every other student for 15 minutes throughout the day. And how do you pull that off within a school? We're going to talk about that just a little bit as we move forward. A secondary contact is simply going to be a person who's been in contact with a close contact. So that's a lot of contact going on there. Let me explain that to you. Person A tests positive for COVID. Person B is identified as a close contact, meaning they've been around that person. They've been around person A for 15 cumulative minutes and they've been within 6 feet. Okay. So where does secondary contact? Well, we're going to say secondary contact is person C. Person C has not been exposed to person A who has the COVID-19 positive, but yet they have been around that close contact, which is person B. If there's just contact between person B and person C without that diagnosis, the secondary contact does not have to quarantine. And then two terms that are being used interchangeably and shouldn't be is quarantine and isolation. So quarantine is required for someone who's a close contact to a positive case of COVID-19. That person is expected to remain at home and out of all public activities for 14 days, even if they've had a negative test result, because we know the incubation period is 14 days. So isolation, though, is somebody who's tested positive for COVID-19. And that person, you're not supposed to quarantine at home. You're supposed to completely separate yourself from others for a minimum of 10 days. And so that is, there's other criteria that goes along with that. ADH will take care of that. But here's the key. I want you to read this last sentence. The ADH case investigator will issue an official letter of release when the individual is ready to return to work. So if you have a person who has contracted COVID, we cannot accept them in our buildings until they have that ADH letter of release stating that they're fine to come back to school. Few more terms. Incubation period, that's just going to be the period between exposure of an infection to the appearance of the first symptom. An infectious period, that is 2 days prior to symptom onset until the individual is isolated. Symptomatic, you're showing symptoms of COVID-19, and those symptoms can appear 2 to 14 days after exposure. Asymptomatic means that you have tested positive, but you are showing no symptoms, and those are the people who are creating such problems with COVID-19. And community spread is simply the number of people within your area who has the virus. So let's move on to some school updates, and you're going to hear some of that terminology being used, and that's why it was important for us to go over that. So our point of contact is responsible for notifying the ADH. Now we have to follow that rule of within 6 feet for 15 minutes cumulative or longer. So due to that, the one thing that I've told you from the beginning that we have working in our favor is structure and organization. If we use that, we'll hopefully easily be able to identify those possible or probable close contacts. So we will have seating charts for everything. Buses, classrooms, just about any place where kids are together, we're going to have those seating charts. Talk to your kids about that. Let them know that this isn't going to be teachers picking on them. That's something that we're going to have to do in order to assist the ADH with contact tracing. On school buses, just a few things on school buses. Every student, K through 12, has to have a mask on in order to be transported to school on a bus. This includes bus drivers. Now, we're going to have assigned seats on there, so just prepare your kids. If they've got a brother or a sister, we're going to have family members sit together. If not, we'll try to organize them by grades. What we're doing is we're trying to reduce the exposure. Like if there's a kid in kindergarten and there's an 8th grader, they aren't siblings, we're trying not to expose them to each other. So that's why we're seating kids by grades or with family members. So just prepare those siblings. They're going to have to sit together. On a bus. We also want you to know that if your kid shows up to the bus stop and they realize they've left their mask at home, there's no reason for them to go back. Y'all, we understand they're kids. And if there's one thing that will allow us to get through this together, it's going to be sympathy for each other and flexibility with each other. And so we're going to have some of those disposable masks on each bus. So if your kid shows up at the bus stop and they don't have a mask, we're going to make sure that they have a mask. We want you to know that our bus drivers will have foggers that they'll use to disinfect their bus, and they will do that before and after their routes. We are also going to clean those buses thoroughly, and we'll do that very frequently. Now, this is a big ask. I realize that. But if there's anything you can do to bring your child to school, we would certainly appreciate that help. As you know, socially distancing on a bus is going to be difficult. But as we follow the state instruction on how to transport kids to school, we're going to put them in masks and we're going to assign them seats. And if social distancing is possible, we will. But on most of our buses, it's just not feasible. So if you can bring your kid to school, we certainly would appreciate that. Now, there are some other safety things that we'll do or safety steps we'll take with kids on buses. For example, if it's nice outside, we're going to have them ride with the windows down. That way there's plenty of airflow through the bus. Let's talk briefly about some online learning. Don't forget we've got 2 options. You can do 100% stay at home online learning. If you're going to pursue that route, don't forget we need your decision by next Monday. You can fill out the form online. You can send it to us via regular mail, or you can hand deliver it to our school. And remember, if you sign up now, you are committing for a 9-week period. We will notify you when the withdrawal dates are for the virtual option, but you are committed for the first 9 weeks. If you do not want the online option and you want your child to attend the face-to-face instruction, you do nothing. You just send them to school the first day and we'll be ready for them. So what should your child expect when they show up to school? Well, we're going to be taking temperatures at all entrances along with asking a quick series of questions. Now understand, we have to take those temperatures indoors. If we don't take those temperatures indoors, the heat can influence the thermometer readings. And so we will be taking those temperatures indoors. What we'd like for you to do, though, is start visiting with your kids about maintaining social distancing once they show up for school or in any line. That would be beneficial also. But those of you who have gone through that bus loop, as you know, there can be a lot of kids all at once trying to enter the school. But to relieve um, some of that pressure of creating a bottleneck and having a bunch of kids standing outside. At the elementary school, the parents, you're still going to drop off at your usual spot. Now, buses are also going to go through the bus loop, but they will not drop off where they've been dropping off in the past. Rather, as they go through the loop, they're going to stop at the gym. At the high school, students will be dropped off at the front. I don't know if you've seen the front of that high school, but it looks amazing. And buses or those who bring their own car, they will be at the back of the school. We'll have those four places, or excuse me, yeah, those four places will be where we're taking temperatures. At the elementary school, the main entrance and the gym. At the high school, the front and the back entrance. So let's talk about classrooms. Just know our classrooms, we are working on setting them up for social distancing. Um, Also know that we will not allow anybody inside of the school facilities except for students and faculty members. I know some of you like to come meet with your kids. I know some of you like to come up, and as we've developed relationships through the years, we've opened those doors, we've welcomed you in. But folks, right now, we can't do that, and it's all in the name of safety and protecting our little ones. So I hope you understand that. Know that we will need you to purchase some water bottles for your kids. We're not allowed to use water fountains, but we do have touch-free water bottle stations where your kids can fill up some water. So please purchase some plastic water bottles and have them write their name on it. While plastic, well, the alternative is glass, and we all know what kids can do. A lot of times they can drop those water bottles, and if it's glass and it breaks, it's not that we got to clean up a mess, it's that we're worried about the safety of kids and possibly getting cut by glass. Each time a student leaves our classes, they will be expected to use hand sanitizers or wash their hands. And folks, believe me, I'd like to think all of our kids wash their hands, but I have two of them at home, and I know they'll go to the bathroom, and I'll ask them if they wash their hands, and knowing that water hadn't been running, and they'll come out and say, "Yes, sir, I did." Talk to your kids about washing their hands, and here's why. As we've learned more since COVID-19 since this pandemic has started, we've learned that for every 3 or 5 times that you use hand sanitizer, you're supposed to wash your hands. So talk to your kids about washing their hands frequently. Um, and know that as our students transition from one class to another, that we will be wiping their desks down with a cleaning solution. This cleaning solution that I've just referenced, it will eliminate COVID in 1 minute, and it is EPA approved. We've installed hand sanitizing stations in each class. We have plenty of hand sanitizer on hand. We started preparing for that when we dismissed back in March. I was worried that, I'd been hearing for a couple of weeks that this was getting closer and that we were going to be staying in school. And so at that time, we started putting in all the hand sanitizing stations in each class, excuse me, in our cafeterias, and I purchased plenty of hand sanitizers. So we're in really good shape there. And then we've revamped our cleaning protocols and our procedures. And I'm not going to bore you with all the details, but we've definitely got a better system in place. We did that back in April, brought somebody in to train us on how to do that, and I think that you'll be pleased to know that I feel confident that it's going to be a better system for us. Well, that's this week's update. Next week, I've already started collecting some things to tell you about next week, and I hope you'll come back. But in the meantime, I hope you have a great week. Stay safe, and we'll see you next Monday. Thanks.